This here today. Here's Jonathan. He'll get us started, and he says hello here this afternoon on a busy program, and he's on Mad Dog Unleashed. Jonathan, good afternoon. How are you today, pal? What do you have?
How you doing, dog? Happy holidays to you.
You too, John. Let me hear now. What do you have for me?
I was listening to your open monologue, and I was listening to you were talking about the Marlins located, should have been opened up in Fort Lauderdale.
Well, I mean, listen, they can't. The county, the state helped them build that stadium, so they got to say they tore down the Orange Bowl. They tore down the Orange Bowl. That was the location. The location is a horrendous location. There's nothing to do.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I'm from Boca. I lived in Fort Lauderdale for 10 years, and I got to tell you, there is nowhere they could put that stadium in those locations. Nowhere.
Well, I don't know enough about it. Yeah, you would think if you had a stadium in Miami, you'd like to put it around the water.
No, absolutely. And I do believe that David Beckham and I think some other investors, they were looking at putting an MLS team in Miami, and there's just nowhere to put it. Nowhere.
Yeah, you mean to tell me there's not a body of land somewhere near the near where the football stadium is, or somewhere in that area where you can put a football stadium, put a baseball stadium?
I agree with you that would be a fantastic location, that they could put it on the water somewhere in South Beach, somewhere in Fort Lauderdale. But there is no land that can hold that type of new architecture, to hold that type of parking and all that, other than West Miami.
Well, that's a problem. I mean, because the citizenship in downtown Miami ain't going to games. There's nothing west of that stadium that's going to bring people there. It's the Everglades. South,
right, it's a major issue.
South is the Florida Keys. I mean, and east is the ocean. So they are a complete. Listen, say what you want, and I don't want to go too into this because I don't think enough people care. And that is why people who moan and groan about the Marlins trading off Stanton, how could you do this, everything else? Well, hold on now. They had Stanton there for the last 5-6 years. Nobody went to the games. So you had a player of that ilk who had a chance to win the MVP. Well, he did win the MVP. Who had a chance to break Maris's single-season home run record, forget Bonds, and nobody showed up. So, I mean, the Marlin fan now moaning and groaning about how in the world they let him go. I mean, that's being hypocritical because they had a chance to support the Marlins in the last couple of years and never did. I mean, this is a franchise that when Jose Fernandez, had the accident, again, it wasn't tragic. It's tragic for the people who he died with. It's not tragic for him. I mean, not the way people like to think of the word tragedy. But when they had that terrible scenario and then they had the day of for Fernandez, 16,000 people showed up. 16,000, that's it. 16,000. When I had that special Monday game against the Mets, 16,000. That is it. Nobody else near the ballpark. So it's proven time and again, Miami is just not that interested in Major League Baseball. The people who live in that area are from other parts of the country who they care about their own team, who they grew up with. They have no interest in the Marlins. And baseball went to Miami a long time ago to collect on, expansion fee money and everything else. And now they can't. Now they don't do it with the franchise. And I know baseball right now wants to revel in the Yankees and the Red Sox, revel in the Dodgers and the Giants, look at the Cubs and the Cardinals. With these two teams, I understand that. And baseball wants to revel in the big markets and the rivalries and, all the juice that is being generated in certain cities. But they're leaving a lot of cities They're leaving a lot of cities in their wake in the dust. That's all there is to it. And Miami and Tampa are two of them. And those franchises, try watching a Miami Marlins New York Met game last year or next year in New York. How about Marlins Braves in Atlanta in the middle of July? You going to go watch those games? Think about that for a second. Scott in Tampa, he's on Mad Dog Unleashed. Scotty, good afternoon. How are you today, pal?
I'm good, doggy. So I told you when you were at the winter meetings, Longoria was all but gone, and there he's gone. And at the latest, Chris Archer is gone at the trade deadline this year, Chris. So you're basically going to be.
Well, the only difference between Archer and Longoria is Longoria is making a lot of money and Archer is not. So getting rid of 84,
they're going to trade Archer now while they can get something, risk him getting hurt. They're going to do something now to get rid of him. You know it.
They probably will. They probably will, but I don't think the need is as urgent because Longoria had $80 million coming to him who's on the downside, while Archer's making $25 million and he's on the upside. So keep that in mind. Go ahead.
Chris, I still think he's going to go. And here's the thing, Chris, two things. First, on the stadium. The stadium deal it's done. If they couldn't get a stadium built, Chris, between 2008 when they went to the World Series with Joe Madden and 2014 before Joe Madden left, in years where we went to a World Series, were competitive every year, went to playoffs. It's never going to be built now when you've got a AAA franchise out there. Look, there were games last year, Chris, in the middle of the week against the Twins and the Rangers where there were 6,000 people in the ballpark. Well, how many people do you think are going to be there this year? They'll be lucky to put 5,000 people in the seats. It's going to be an absolute embarrassment to the league. And it's over here. I told you this. The experiment is over. Just move the team. I know the lease deal is going to hold them here, but there's got to be a way for the league to get out. It's got to look awful for the league now of what's going on now again in Tampa.
Listen, you're preaching to the choir. Now, there's no place that Tampa can go to right now. I mean, Montreal does not have a stadium where to go, so I don't know where they're going to go. But again, baseball is going to revel, and you're talking to somebody who knows everything, the ins and outs of this, inner workings. I know exactly what I'm talking about when I tell you this. Baseball is going to revel in the Yankees and the Red Sox, the Cardinals and the Cubs, the Giants and the Dodgers, Houston. They're going to revel in all this hoopla, good ratings, markets that were dead in the water like an Astro market. The tank got picks and away we went. They're going to revel in this. I'll buy that. But when they revel in this on Park Avenue, let me see them in the middle of June spend a weekend series in Miami and then fly up to Tampa to spend a 4-game series when the Mariners are there against the Rays. Let me see them do that, where they're revved up. That they won't do, and it's a major problem for the sport, and that is all there is to it, and I'd be worried about it if I were them. Ron in Michigan, and he's with us here on Mad Dog Unleashed. Ronnie, good afternoon. How are you today? What do you have for me?
I think this is a bad trade for the Giants. They just picked up another bad contract. You know what they kind of remind me of? The Tigers last year. They held on, and they have Samardzija is a bad contract. Pence is a bad contract. This is a bad contract. I'm thinking this team should be cutting bait and even trade Bumgarner and start all over. You won 3 world championships. What more do you need?
You can't do that in that market. They draw 41,000 a game. It's a great stadium. They have a huge TV contract. Their farm system is not producing any players right now. They have the Dodgers right down the turnpike. They're not right down, but they got the Dodgers, who are their arch enemy, winning. The Giants are not going to do that. Now, you might be right from a forecasting standpoint.
The Dodgers are young. The Giants are old. They'll never catch up to the Dodgers the rate they're going now.
I agree with that, but you can't. The Giants and Larry Baer, they're a competitive group. They are not going to throw up the white flag with that fan base. Now, in long term, Ronnie, you might be 1,000% correct that this is not the way the Giants should go. The Giants should trade. Now, listen, trading Bumgarner is going to bother. He's still in the prime of his career, but the Giants are going to try to win with this nucleus now with Crawford and Posey and Bumgarner. So it's a very tricky spot the Giants are in. I grant you that, but they have to try to win. Longoria for next year and next year only will help them. Longoria, that infield's a good infield. They got a good catcher. The Giants are going to be, they should be better next year. They'll be healthier. They should be better. Long term, I don't disagree. Long term. Paul in Orange, Connecticut. He's got a chance. He's on Mad Dog Unleashed. Paul, good afternoon. How are you today?
Hey, Dog. Happy holidays to you and your family.
You too, Paulie. Nice to talk to you. What's on your mind now? Let me hear.
I will say, being from Connecticut, I've listened to you and Mike when you guys were together and since you've split up. And I wanted to call you now. You have my undivided attention because there's no way I'm calling Bart Scott about this. I have a Yankee question. I know you despise the Yankees, but hear me out on this. So I don't, along with you, I don't like the Stanton pickup. I might be in the minority, but I believe you were talking to Mike about it before he left, and it changes the dynamic, the leadership, everything.
It does.
And my question is, aside from him opting out in a couple of years, how is this team going to afford, because as a Yankee fan, I look at this nucleus right now as Bird, Severino, Sanchez, and Judge. And you're looking at, in 2022, Severino and Bird are up they're up for free agency, and then the next year they got Judge and Sanchez. Now with Stan in the mix, how realistic is this going to be to keep this team together? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I just don't see it happening. I think the Stan thing really does change everything. The likability factor that the Yankees had I think gets taken down a couple notches. Do you agree?
Well, I think you're saying two different things there, Paul. Yes, the likability factor gets taken down. Yes, they didn't need to upset the karma, the chemistry of the team. From a financial standpoint, the Yankees should be okay. I mean, that's a long way off with free agency with those young players. I think the Yankees can figure out a way to get them paid. So I wouldn't worry so much about that. I would worry about this particular group throwing Stanton into the mix. I would be concerned somewhat regarding that. Mr. Shackle, Justin's here with the Sports Bite half past on Mad Dog Unleashed.
Mad